मॉर्निंग एवरीवन। आप सब 8th सेमेस्टर राइट? मेरा नाम डॉक्टर अभय है। आई एम वन ऑफ द पीडियाट्रिक रूमेटोलॉजिस्ट हियर। आज का टॉपिक था जुवेनाइल इडियोपैथिक आर्थराइटिस एंड हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू हैव सीन JIA? किसी ने देखा है चाइल्डहुड आर्थराइटिस एट ऑल? सो बेसिकली क्या होता है जब बच्चों को आर्थराइटिस होता है मोर देन 6 वीक्स without any other infectious cause, we call it a JIA. So today we'll be discussing the basics of JIA and classification आया क्या. Some people call it JRA, JIA. What is the nomenclature for this? So classification of arthritis जो था, this is quite old. It's 1977 में एक EULAR criteria था, 1986 में ACR, which is the American College of Rheumatology criteria था, and 1997 में ILAR criteria है, which is actually the one we are still using right now for arthritis classification. So ILAR is International League Against Rheumatism. So if you look at textbooks for the classification, this is juvenile chronic arthritis ऊपर लिखा है on the box. So this was an old classification. That's why it used to be called as JCA. Age of onset less than 16 years, arthritis in one or more joints, duration of disease 3 months or longer, and there was a different nomenclature for the different kinds of JCA at the time. So polyarticular, systemic juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and juvenile ankylosing spondylitis, and psoriatic arthritis. So there are these different categories of JIA or JCA at the time. So what happened that over time ये सब classification change होता गया into different kinds of arthritis. So we'll also discuss why this got changed and what is the relevance of that. Okay? So this was JCA. This was the first one, EULAR classification. Polyarticular was when there were less than 5 joints involved. Polyarticular was when there were more than 4 joints involved, and there was also a classification of rheumatoid factor positive or negative. We'll talk about that in the subsequent slides. Then came the ACR criteria, जिसमें उन्होंने use किया the word JRA, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. Now you commonly see whenever a child comes to you with the joint swelling that they send a rheumatoid factor. It may or may not be relevant. You don't send it for every child. Rheumatoid factor भेजने की जरूरत नहीं होती हर किसी बच्चे में. When you look at this criteria, इसमें भी age of onset less than 16 years. Arthritis की definition क्या होती है? When we talk about arthritis, it says either swelling of the joint or it says pain with restriction. So अगर किसी बच्चे को joint में swelling है, then there's clearly joint swelling, तो arthritis बोल सकते हैं उसको. Whether we call it chronic arthritis, it depends on the duration. So it has to be for more than 6 weeks. Otherwise आप chronic नहीं बोलेंगे. Acute could be anything from septic arthritis to acute osteomyelitis. कुछ भी हो सकता है acute joint swelling तो. Some kids don't have a joint swelling, but they do have pain and restriction in movement. तब भी वो arthritis की category में ही आता है. So as you can see, point number 2 में लिखा है swelling or effusion or presence of 2 or more of the following, limitation with tenderness or pain. So either way, either swelling or limitation and pain is called as arthritis. Duration of disease has to be 6 weeks or longer because these are chronic conditions. So अगर infection है तो obviously उसको आप juvenile arthritis नहीं बोलेंगे. That is more to be treated with antibiotics. इसमें इन्हें categorize किया था as polyarthritis, oligoarthritis, and systemic onset JIA, and exclusion of other forms of juvenile arthritis. So this was the second one called as the ACR, American College of Rheumatology का classification था. Now this is the current criteria. This was back in 1997. So this has also been a while we've been using this, but this is the one we still use currently. So इसमें 7 categories होती हैं juvenile arthritis की. This is the one which is called as JIA, juvenile idiopathic arthritis, because there's no obvious cause of why kids get arthritis. Basically, they say that there are some genetic component and environmental risk factors because of which kids develop arthritis. Now, for a rough estimate, 1 in every 1,000 to 2,000 children get arthritis, childhood arthritis, starting as early as the age of 1 year. So now there are 7 kinds of juvenile idiopathic arthritis. This is something you should all know, because अगर कुछ pediatric rheumatology में important topic है for you guys is this. There's nothing else which is as important as JIA. So there are 7 types of JIA. Systemic onset JIA is the one in which they get fevers, rashes, and arthritis. The second one is oligoarthritis, oligoarticular arthritis, which means 4 or less than 4 joints. Persistent and extended, इसके 2 forms होते हैं. Persistent means which extends beyond 6 months to involve more than 4 joints. It remains at 4 joints or less. Extended is which actually involves more than 4 joints after 6 months. Polyarticular, maybe there are 2 categories, RF positive and RF negative. So that's point number 3 and 4. Psoriatic arthritis में क्या होता है? When they have psoriasis, when they have dactylitis, when they have nail changes, nail pitting, onycholysis, that is called as the psoriatic arthritis. Enthesitis related arthritis. Enthesis क्या होता है? Whenever a muscle attaches to a bone, तो muscle आता है, फिर tendon आती है, and then it attaches to a bone. That point is the enthesis. जैसे अपना tendo-achilles होता है पीछे का, those points are called as enthesis. So enthesitis related arthritis is the childhood counterpart of ankylosing spondylitis. जो बड़े लोगों में आप देखते हैं बैक का प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है, स्पाइन का प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है, इसका childhood counterpart is called as ERA. Point number 6. And the last one is undifferentiated. Basically, अगर वो किसी में fit नहीं हो रहा है या फिर वो if it's fitting in more than one category, then it comes under point number 7. So these are the 7 criteria 7 types of JIA we should all know, and we'll talk about each one of them in the subsequent slides. So आपने देखा कि the ACR and the ILR वाले 1977 to 1997 में difference क्या है? जो duration has always been 6 weeks. So more than 6 weeks is called as JIA. The second one is age at onset is also pediatric है तो obviously less than 16 years of age at onset. It used to be called as pauci-articular initially, now it's called as oligo-articular. Persistent is जो अगर वो चल रहा है and remains for less than 4 joints, extended like I said, involves more than 4 joints after 6 months of onset. Polyarticular used to be just polyarticular, now it's changed into polyarticular RF negative and RF positive. Like I said, systemic जो होता है fever, rash and arthritis करके आता है systemic category इसकी, and the other one is called as undifferentiated जो बाकी categories में आता है. This is a similar slide. Basically, we have to focus more on the ILR one, and if you get a question, you should know that there was a ULR criteria, there was an ACR criteria, which are no longer used, and we currently use the ILR criteria, which is back in 1997. The interesting thing out of these 7 points is that these are not watertight compartments that ये diagnosis अलग ही होगा कि भाई systemic है तो systemic ही है, oligo है तो oligo ही है. They're quite overlapping. Sometimes it can be challenging to say कि ये किस category में आता है. So when they are fulfilling more than one category, like I said, they can always be called as undifferentiated. But usually we have to decide that based on the phenotype of the presentation. अगर छोटा बच्चा आता है, so it depends on the age group of the child as well. So if it's a small child, 1 or 2 year old, they normally have oligo-articular JIA. So it really depends on how they are. If it's like a 14-year-old boy with back pain, we'll classify him as an ERA because वो ankylosing spondylitis का counterpart होता है. If somebody has psoriasis in the family or has nail changes, तो आप उसको psoriatic में करेंगे. So it really depends on that also. So JCA was proposed by the initial one, like I said. These criteria differed from the ACR in three ways. Initial वाला जो बिल्कुल 1977 का था, they said that it should be present for at least 3 months instead of 6 weeks, which is the current criteria. So you should know कि आज की तारीख में it's actually 6 weeks, not 3 months. Juvenile ankylosing spondylitis, psoriatic arthropathy, and arthropathy associated with IBD are separate categories. The term JRA was applied only to children with arthritis and RF positivity initially. That's why it used to be called as JRA, rheumatoid arthritis, but abhi it's called as JIA. In 1995, ILR criteria was proposed, and the classification and subsequent revisions were developed by consensus with the aim of achieving homogeneity within disease categories, so that the treatment can be better labeled for each category. Like I've already said, it's always classified when the age of the child is less than 16 years, and the initial classification has to be within the first 6 months, because after the 6 months it will change into extended versus persistent kind of JIA. And the undifferentiated category hai jo does not meet any criteria or meets more than one category. Some of the parameters of the ILR criteria are entirely arbitrary in order to retain some continuity, like I said, because we want them to be watertight compartments, but they are not really watertight compartments. It just helps in us labeling them and giving them treatment accordingly. So there was a revision of the ILR criteria of 1997 in 2001, and they just made it slightly easier for the classification to occur. So family history of psoriasis was responsible for most allocations to the undifferentiated category. This was a revision. I think we can skip this one. So starting with the 7 categories of JIA, the systemic JIA is the one, like I said, which presents with fever and rashes. So इसकी definition में आप देखेंगे arthritis in one or more joints with or preceded by fever for at least 2 weeks, and it's typically called as quotidian. That means once a day fevers, and accompanied by at least one of these four. So evanescent rash, generalized lymphadenopathy, hepatosplenomegaly, or serositis. So systemic GIA is a very different kind of GIA because इसमें fever होता है, बाकी किसी GIA में usually fevers नहीं होते हैं. So they also said that there's a concept of auto-inflammatory diseases. I don't know if you guys are aware, but autoimmune and auto-inflammatory are two different things. Autoimmune means adaptive immunity को जो affect करता है, and auto-inflammatory means innate immunity को जो affect करता है. So systemic GIA used to be, it's still actually, it's not very clear whether it comes under autoimmune or auto-inflammatory because the children with systemic GIA behave like genetic problems of innate immune system. So fevers and recurrent rashes is something we would see in auto-inflammatory diseases. Having said that, most of these kids present with fevers and rashes, they may or may not have joint involvement at the start. That's what makes it very complicated to diagnose. अगर बच्चा आपके पास आ रहा है, you're calling them systemic juvenile arthritis without any joint involvement, becomes very challenging. And in textbook they say that the joint involvement can be even 10 years after the onset of the fever and rash. So it can take a long time to diagnose this kind of GIA. So what you have to know is that this is the one which they have evanescent erythematous rashes, which are actually non-fixed, which means they only come with the fever spikes and go down as the fever goes down. They have generalized lymphadenopathy. They can have serositis, which you would look for either on the chest X-ray or an ultrasound abdomen. In the ILR category, they also have exclusions. So basically, they want to remove and exclude all the other categories when you're classifying a child as a systemic or as a poly or as an oligo. So the exclusions in this are psoriasis, arthritis in B27 positive boy. HLA-B27 positive basically is an ankylosing spondylitis ka gene marker. The point number C exclusion is ankylosing spondylitis, ERA, sacroiliitis, IBD, Reiter syndrome. Does anyone know what Reiter syndrome is? So Reiter syndrome is basically a type of reactive arthritis when kids get arthritis, uveitis, and urethritis or loose stools. And it's now no longer called Reiter syndrome because apparently there was some Nazi connections with the Reiter, which was found out in 2010. So they stopped calling it Reiter syndrome. Hans Reiter was the name of that person who wrote a book who was actually a Nazi supporter. And rheumatoid factor positivity is point number D because rheumatoid factor positivity will come under RF positive poly GIA. So like I said, systemic GIA is actually an overlap between autoimmune and autoinflammatory. So there has been discussions whether it should be classified as a juvenile arthritis or not. But because it is a kind of chronic arthritis, it does come under this category. So when we treat systemic GIA, there's also a complication when you give interleukin-1 blockade, which probably is not very important for you at this stage. But you should know that IL-1 blockade normally is used for kids with autoinflammatory diseases. Systemic GIA, there's also a previous name for it called as adult onset Still's disease. And like I said, patients who present with same systemic features but never develop arthritis should also be included in this group. Often we have to wait for months and years for them to develop arthritis. They may or may not. So we always have to write probable systemic GIA. So it really depends on the involvement of joints. The second one in this category after systemic GIA is polyarticular GIA. Like I said, involves more than 4 joints, affecting for more than 6 weeks in a child less than 16 years of age. Now, poly GIA they have classified in 2, RF positive and RF negative. So whenever we say RF positive or RF negative, we say that it should be on 2 occasions. Like you can see point number D, it should be on 2 occasions at least 3 months apart. Then only, because there is also chance of false RF positivity. If you do a single value of RF, it comes back as positive. So again, the exclusion criteria are A, B, C, D. If a child has psoriasis, if the child has HLA-B27 positive. So the ankylosing spondylitis one, the one I mentioned, ERA, is usually seen in boys after the age of 6. And that's why if you look at the point number B, it says B27 positive boy beginning after the 6th birthday. So normally the ERA or the ankylosing spondylitis category starts when the boy has had his 6th birthday after that age group. And you can see the ABCD other points for. There's also a role of anti-CCP antibodies. So I don't know if anyone has family members with rheumatoid arthritis in your family. But we often do RF and anti-CCP antibodies to diagnose rheumatoid arthritis. So even in this category of poly GIA who are RF positive, I was working in Gangaram Hospital in New Delhi, and half of the children had RF positivity and half of them had anti-CCP antibody positivity. So even though it's not a part of the criteria, it's also very important clinically to actually look for RF and anti-CCP both to diagnose the RF positive polyarticular GIA. And like the second point says, RF positive polyarthritis is like the childhood counterpart of adult rheumatoid arthritis. So these kids may or may not. So for example, if we diagnose this child at the age of 10 or 12, they may or may not go on to continue to develop rheumatoid arthritis when they're 30 or 40 years of age. So that's why it's somehow the counterpart of the adult rheumatoid arthritis, RF positive poly-GIA. This amounts to around 5 to 10% of all patients with GIA. And children in this category closely resemble adults with seropositive RA, and they tend to demonstrate similar characteristics, like I said, biomarkers of RA and anti-CCP antibodies, and have symmetric polyarthritis. So whenever a child comes to you with joint swellings which are very symmetric in both upper limb and lower limb, can involve the small joints, the knees, the ankles, then we have to think of polyarticular GIA, rheumatoid factor positive, and we have to look for these markers. Most children with RF positive polyarthritis are treated more aggressively, obviously because of the number of joints. Like I said, they can also have antibodies to anti-CCP. These antibodies can be present years before the clinical symptoms of RA appear, and they are associated with the development of a more severe rheumatoid arthritis. And the second point says, like I said, anti-CCP is not a part of the criteria, but it should be looked at. With the exception of ANA positive arthritis, the other categories all represent childhood onset of the same disease that occur in adults. And there are a lot of critique about the ILAR classification because they say we cannot classify them into separate watertight compartments, like I said before, and we should not label them as JIE at all. So there are numerous studies on whether we should bring out a new criteria with only RF positive, RF negative, and an ankylosing spondylitis category and a systemic category. But we still haven't reached a consensus. So from your point of view, I think we should stick to the ILAR 7 GIA subtype category. This is just all the critique which I just mentioned. The third one is oligoarticular GIA. So the arthritis, when it affects for less than 4 joints, during the first 6 months of disease, there are 2 categories, persistent and extended oligoarticular GIA. Persistent is when throughout they have less than or equal to 4 joints, and extended is after the first 6 months they go on to develop more joints. The table below basically is again the exclusion criteria, which we have to remember as PBARS, PBARS is the mnemonic for it. So psoriasis, B27, ankylosing spondylitis, and systemic GIA. In the oligoarticular category, children often have ANA positivity. So the relevance of ANA positivity, you would have often read about ANA, probably not often, you would have read about ANA being associated with lupus and other autoimmune diseases. But one category of GIA where ANA is important is oligo-GIA, because whenever a child with oligoarticular GIA has ANA positivity, then they are more likely to have uveitis, which is an eye complication, inflammation in the eyes, in the uvea, which is the ciliary body. Early onset ANA positive oligo is a well-defined entity that is seen only in childhood. There is a clear evidence that some patients with this disease are wrongly classified as RF negative polyarthritis because of the difference in spread of arthritis, or as psoriatic because of the presence of psoriasis or of some psoriatic feature. The main thing is that there are 2 important things about the ANA. One is the titer of the ANA. So whenever we ask for an ANA, we have to look at immunofluorescence ANA. And we have to, when a child is positive, what is the titer of the ANA? If it's just 1 in 80, it really comes as 1 in 80, 1 in 160, 1 in 320, and so on. So the higher the ANA, the more the chance of eyes being involved. So you have to just screen the child every few months for uveitis. And it's called a silent uveitis because they may not have symptoms, and they'll end up with complications of cataract, glaucoma, blindness. So it can be really with high morbidity. I think I can skip this slide. The next one is juvenile psoriatic arthritis. Which I mentioned before, either the family members have psoriasis, or the child has psoriasis, or the child has dactylitis, which is swelling in the finger, or there is nail pitting, or onycholysis, which is damage to the nail. So if you look at the criteria, it says arthritis and psoriasis. If the child has both, there's no doubt. Obviously, we have to wait for 6 weeks. So before that, we can't officially label the child as JIA. But if it's been going on for more than 6 weeks, you call it as psoriatic arthritis. Often these children don't have psoriasis, so they may have arthritis, and you're still not sure what's happening. So you look at very closely at their nails, if they have any nail pitting or not. Dactylitis, obviously, again, is in keeping with psoriatic arthritis, and you have to ask a history for psoriasis in the father or the mother. and the table below again is the exclusion criteria. Again, the thing is, with parents, we have to always check whether the psoriasis diagnosis is confirmed or not, because often they will say we have just have eczema or something related which looks very similar. So if there is a suspicion, you would always get it biopsied or ask a dermatologist to have a look at the parents' skin lesions. And if it's in keeping with psoriasis, your diagnosis becomes easy, so you can just go ahead and start treatment. And of course, like many of them will also fall into the category of undifferentiated, when often what happens is that they may be HLA-B27 positive, they may be rheumatoid factor positive, so we can't apply the exclusion criteria to them. So that's why they'll probably come as undifferentiated, but in the bracket you can always mention about the likelihood of the phenotype of the JIA. Having said that, once we classify all these children as JIA, the treatment more or less is not very different. That's the important thing. So whenever we treat these children, we have to give steroids, we have to give DMARDs like methotrexate, sulfasalazine, there are different DMARDs. If the child has only one or two joints, we also have to think about joint injections. We often start with NSAIDs like naproxen, ibuprofen. So it really depends on what the clinical picture is. So for example, if a 1-year-old child comes to me with a single joint, we have to rule out tuberculosis, we have to rule out septic arthritis. So it really depends on how the presentation of the child is and not just the criteria. So my point is that we have to see how the child is and then apply these things, not the other way around. The next category is ERA, which is the ankylosing spondylitis counterpart. So you can see the first line, it says arthritis and enthesitis. So enthesitis, like I mentioned, there are a lot of points in the body for enthesitis. One is like above the knee joint, below the knee joint, tendoachilles, around the elbow joint, where the tendon attaches to the bone, and that attachment can be swollen or inflamed, and that's when it's called as enthesitis. So if the child has arthritis and enthesitis both, the diagnosis is quite easy. But if usually they come to us with arthritis, now this is the category when they'll be normally 10, 11 years old or 12 years old male child with asymmetric oligoarthritis of the lower limbs. That is called as ERA. As per the criteria, it says with at least two of the following. So it should be presence of sacroiliac joint tenderness or inflammatory lumbosacral pain or both. Number 2 is B27 antigen positive, arthritis in a boy more than 6 years old. This category actually develops acute uveitis, which is red painful eyes, rather than the oligoarticular silent uveitis category. So often when these kids come to us, we ask them about the history and they say, yes, we were getting some eye redness episodes and it self-resolves in a few days. So that's again important. If they are getting uveitis, that helps us in making a diagnosis of ERA category. In this category is also a very important aspect of inflammatory bowel disease, sacroiliitis, Reiter syndrome, ankylosing spondylitis, or acute anterior uveitis in a first degree relative also. So whenever there's a family history, so ERA children come to us with the father having ankylosing spondylitis, for example. So we know that this is most likely either ERA confirmed or evolving into an ERA over the next few months or years. So this is that category. This is quite a difficult category to control because sacroiliac joints, the hip joint, the cervical spine, the midfoot, all these are difficult joints to control. But it's important for us to classify them as an ERA so that we can treat accordingly. For example, if the child has sacroiliac joints or the hip joints, we would go more aggressively rather than starting only NSAIDs and watching. So it really depends on the category that way. So this category grew out of an understanding of the seronegative enthesitis and arthritis syndrome, which frequently eventuates into recognizable ankylosing spondylitis in the adulthood. For the diagnosis of this category, we often require imaging. So we would do an MRI of the sacroiliac of the pelvis area, for example. So to look at the early changes of sacroiliitis, because historically, if you look at textbooks, they would do X-rays, but X-rays would take years to change. So if you have to diagnose and start treatment early, we would do an MRI instead. And the last category of JIA is arthritis that fulfills no category or more than one category, more than two categories. So the frequency of categorization of a child as having undifferentiated has varied from 13% to more than 50%. And differences of which certainly reflect the difference in the application of the ILAR. So this is a criticism to the criteria that we, in spite of 7 categories, we still can't classify everyone into a particular category. And that's why scientists across the world feel that this is something which needs to be changed, but this has been happening for 20 years. So from your point of view, you have to follow this. Okay, so it does say that. So after 20 years, there is a need for revision and most pediatric rheumatologists agree on that. So these are my references. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the diagnosis and treatment of this. So we have discussed the different categories of JIA. I'll go back to the slides. So these are the different categories, and we have to be very careful when a child comes to us with swollen joints, and you should know when to refer to a pediatric rheumatologist and when does it look more infective. So the most common differentials for fever with arthritis is it depends on the number of joints. Like I said, single joint, you have to look for septic arthritis, tuberculosis, and then only think about other things. If it's more than one joint, you have to look for other features. How is the child overall otherwise? Sometimes, like in Gangaram, I've seen kids who developed leukemia and they came to us with severe joint pains. So, for example, if a child has severe joint pains, waking up the child at night, has bony tenderness, the counts are on the lower side, lymphocytic counts, platelets are low, you have to be very careful, send the blood film. Don't be in a rush to start steroids. Especially in the COVID era, everyone is in a hurry to start steroids as soon as possible. Be very careful before doing all such things. We have seen kids with neuroblastoma, with leukemias, with tuberculosis, with different things which can get very easily missed if you don't rule out these things before labeling the child as a particular JIA. The other thing is like reactive arthritis. So again, it's very important for us to look at reactive arthritis. So history taking is really important. So you have to see if the child had any preceding illness, for example, a diarrhea episode or a UTI or a throat infection. So there are different reactive arthritis. One is, like I mentioned, Reiter syndrome. The second one would be rheumatic fever. So even they will have arthritis. You have to scan the heart as well and look for carditis. What is the pattern of involvement? Is it migratory involvement? Is it additive involvement? Is it severe enough to wake the child at night? JIA pains are never very severe. So it's very surprising for us if the child is not able to walk at all, is on a wheelchair, unless they've been neglecting it for months. So it always is a red flag for us when a child comes to us with severe pains, extremely severe pains. In the ARA category again, there are a lot of medications. So normally the first line medications would be NSAIDs. The second line would be methotrexate and DMARDs. Depends on the number of joints. If it's only one or two joints, we would inject the joint with steroids. And then the next line would be TNF inhibitors like infliximab, adalimumab, etanercept. So there are different TNF inhibitors we use to control these things. In rheumatoid factor positive polyarthritis, we can also use B cell blockade called rituximab, which blocks the B cells and helps in the arthritis as well. Practically, whenever you sit in a pediatric clinic, you'll not see many patients with JIA, and that's why it's very important actually to focus on JIA, lupus. There are only a few topics in rheumatology which everyone should know. JIA is definitely one of them. The others one would be like vasculitis, like Kawasaki disease, HSP, and lupus. The other things are very rare, so I wouldn't focus on them for now.